Hey everyone, this is David here with the Magical Stories of Healing and Spiritual Gifts podcast. Very excited to talk to you today. I'm here with my always amazing wife, Megan.
Hello everyone.
And we have an awesome guest today. We're both really excited about this guest. Miss Lily Huffman, are you there with us today?
I am.
Awesome. She's in...
Hi everyone.
Hey.
Hey Lily.
Hello.
She is an intuitive guide and Reiki master, and since we've kicked off Maegical, man, it was like right at the beginning when we first kicked everything off after our ayahuasca experience. She's been there. Like, it was kind of like divine and very interestingly synchronistic how, like, right off the bat, how we connected off of Facebook, actually.
Yeah.
And then...
I agree. You guys are awesome.
Oh, you are too. And then we'll touch on this later, but like the fact how you were actually able to help me find a way to really nix my insomnia. So like that's amazing. So I can't wait to talk about that later.
Yeah, it was... Go ahead.
It was an incredible experience for me to do that session with you too. I mean, you're so on fire in the healing way, like on every level. So it was wonderful working with you. I can't wait to talk about it too.
Yay, love it.
For sure. It's crazy because you run into people and you meet people, and the further I know Megan, I think you too, when we go down this spiritual path, it's like everything happens for a reason. And already from just like meeting you, and then like I said, we'll get to it a little later, but you legitimately like helped us. It was really cool. You helped solve such a big issue that Megan's been dealing with.
It's
so
crazy. I can't wait to talk about that later.
I mean, you're just a testament.
The universe did the work.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But you were an amazing facilitator, so I appreciate it. But like we first really wanted to start with you is, your childhood and young adulthood, because, from my understanding, you have been raised in like a very religious upbringing, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Now, was it Mormon?
Yes, I was raised in the LDS church. My mother was a convert when I was like 5. I talked about this a little bit earlier on my page, but we had a tornado that destroyed our house, and she'd been taking the discussions, and she thought that was like her sign that she was supposed to join. And she joined, and she went all in, and she married my stepfather, and from there it was kind of history. It was strange because my parents were divorced, and she was very, very Mormon, and my dad's side of the family was Catholic. So I had both.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Can't get much more strict than Mormon and Catholic. That's impressive.
Yeah, but I am grateful for a lot of the values I learned.
Absolutely.
Growing up that way.
Yeah, no, I feel
really
the same way.
Yeah, exactly. I'm grateful that as I grew up, I started to question things because it wasn't the right path for me.
Right.
At all. But there are many reasons for that. But yeah.
Nice, yeah, and that kind of brings us to our next question was, and it's interesting. People tend to we're conditioned one way growing up, but then you kind of find your own path. What was it that really started to open your eyes up to the spiritual world? Like, What was it? How'd that path go? Well,
and like, how did you know that you had this gift? Like, what was that like? I am dying to know that.
Okay. Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, the funny thing about all of it is that I remember having this gift as a child.
Wow.
And, I was the kid who hung out with 86-year-olds and actually ended up singing at their wives' funerals because they were like my friends. I didn't hang out with the other kids. If I was hanging out with another kid, it was because their mother had just died and they were sitting on the edge of the playground by themselves. Or, I taught English to children who weren't speaking English. Things like that. I was a weirdo. So, I tried to fit in. I also learned music at a very young age, and so I was performing a lot. I found a lot of spirituality through music, and I remember laying there in my room when I was like, oh gosh, 7 years old, and looking up and putting my hand up and looking at it, thinking there's so much more to this than just my body, and trying to see into it, and then laying there and thinking about the universe, excuse me, and going farther and farther and farther and farther out in my brain and exploring this and like just going, whoa, it never ends, and then crying because I felt the limitless of it all.
Wow.
So, I was always kind of an odd one.
That's odd. And how old were you then?
Probably about 7. I would say.
I'd say not too many 7-year-olds there contemplating the entire universe in their bed.
Yeah. It was really, it was all, that's all I know. So I don't know how it would be to be different. But as I grew up, it became more of a lonely way of feeling and thinking.
Aww. Now, when did you first realize you had a gift? And tell us about that, because that is just so intriguing to me.
Well, like I said, it was always kind of intrinsic. But when I started really realizing it, it was around the time, I had this gift, and I would share things that I was feeling or picking up on about people. And unfortunately, I also came from a very abusive household. So my mother would tell me, you're wrong, you're lying. You don't have the gift of discernment. You don't have this gift because you're not a male. You don't have the priesthood. It's impossible. And so I went through a great, big, huge phase of
So then you probably felt like it was a curse.
It didn't really feel like a curse. I just felt like I learned how to doubt myself, massively.
Yeah.
And struggled with a lot of suicidal ideation, a lot of feeling like I was wrong all the time, and then being deeply insecure because I had to seek out validation from everybody around me because I was having all these feelings and thoughts.
Well, yeah, and if your mother tells you that it's not real, that you don't have that gift, wow.
Yeah. Well, and also, having her not only say that, but then saying I could never have it because I'm not a male, and the only way that I would have direct access to Heavenly Father was having the priesthood, and so I knew in my heart that didn't feel right. But I was deeply insecure, and so I internalized that a lot, and that along with quite a lot of abuse that was going on in my home, emotionally, physically, and otherwise. It was a pretty bad cocktail of pain.
Yeah.
However, I did find when I grew up and went through a lot. I was still in the LDS church when I was 22. I had my first child at 22. And then I had my second at 24, and I was divorced, and went through this big thing of understanding some things were really messed up about the church. And in that time, my second son almost died. He was life-flighted. He had a seizure.
Ooh.
And a lady from church, believe it or not, a lady from church who was a leader at church for the ladies group called the Relief Society, she told me that she recognized that I had healing ability.
Ooh.
And that I should go and be attuned to Reiki. And this is after Gabriel had his seizure. He came home from the hospital. She goes, I'll pay for your first attunement. Go. And I didn't even know what the heck was going on. I was kind of scared, actually, because it looked really evil to me.
Yeah.
And I went and I had this beautiful experience, and this I had suppressed some of the intuition, I think, to just arrive. And and then all of a sudden, everything was wide open. And I'd be walking through the grocery store and start thinking these things and feeling them. And if I got too close to someone, it was like, whoa, I know these things. So I started to talk to strangers. And say, hey, I don't know if this is going to sound weird to you, but I'm having these, like, I feel like I have some sort of a message. And that sounds crazy. But it was always something that they would either thank me for, cry, and then thank me for, or, we would connect. It was never a bad experience. And so,
that's amazing.
Yeah, that was a big part of that.
So is it just, how do you get these messages though? Like, are you getting like visions, or is it just a feeling? Is it like you hear something? Like what is exactly your spiritual gifts? What are?
So the best way that I can, you've heard about all the clairaudient, clairsentient. I have most of those, I would say. The biggest thing for me is just clairsentience. It's just downloads, and I say a prayer before I talk to someone now within a setting of a session, and I ask our angels and guides and ascended masters and all beings that are from the light to commune and to just help me to know what it is that I can say or do, and I ask them to get me out of the way, get my ego out of the way, get any judgment I might have, just move me to the side.
Wow.
And help me to help the person. And I do that every time before a session, and I love it. It works. It's like, I always, whenever I'm done with the session, I sit there and go, whoa, what just happened? That was amazing. It's like I'm there, of course.
Right.
But, it's beautiful. I love how the universe works.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I guess I will touch a little bit on my experience with you, since we're speaking about that. It's funny because I too was raised up in a religious upbringing, and so a lot of heavy conditioning there, and my family's amazing. It's just I had so much fear. Like, I thought if I talked to a psychic, I was going to get possessed. You know what I mean? And I had met Ricardo. I don't know if anyone listening has already listened to his podcast, but he came on, and he was the first experience I ever had with a psychic medium, and oh my gosh, it literally changed my life. It was amazing. Now I do think you have to be careful, it's all about using 100%. Discernment. But man, it was go ahead.
There are a lot of people out there that will prey on people's vulnerability.
Yeah.
And that is very prevalent in the so-called healing arts world. And for me, I don't believe in telling someone their future.
Yeah.
I don't believe in because free will is absolutely the most important thing to me.
Yeah.
And the ability to know what you're supposed to be doing for yourself, and make those decisions. And because we're vulnerable when we go to someone for counsel, we could really influence them to do something if we're not careful. And
and thoughts are things.
I always tell people, how do you feel? What does your intuition tell you? And I think one of my gifts is also helping people feel their intuition.
That's amazing.
Ooh, I like that one.
That's amazing. Well, it was weird. I definitely felt nudged to reach out to you because I have two people that I've talked to over the years that have been so amazing, and I definitely call them friends at this point. And they've helped me in so many areas of my life, which is incredible, and I'm just so thankful for them. But my insomnia was an area that, man, no one could tackle, and it's something that's been going on since since I was in the third grade, really, and it just got worse and worse.
Yeah, and her insomnia means mine too.
If I'm not sleeping, no one's sleeping. And
it's a team thing, right?
yes. But you, and it's so crazy. It was something so simple. I've done sleep studies. I've done all these things, and nothing's ever worked. And then you asked me, if I knew anything about feng shui, which, not really, but at this point I was like, I know anything's possible. A couple of years, 6 years ago, I might have been like, no, that's kooky or whatever. But, the things that you told me to do absolutely worked, and then just protecting my home, saging it every night. And it's so crazy how simple things is like moving my bed and doing these things, shutting my toilet seat, these things that you told me to do. And all of a sudden, and I before I couldn't get more than 3 hours of sleep, and now I'm like sleeping like more than 8 hours. It's crazy.
That makes me so happy. You're catching up. Yay!
It really is amazing. We actually have a whole ritual now every night.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
I don't care. It takes.
Because it joins.
Go ahead.
It joins you guys even more too. That's empowering you as a couple. And
Yeah.
that's wonderful.
We go around. We literally.
Happy.
Yep. We sage the whole house all the way around. We say protection prayers. We make sure everything's set. I mean, it's a whole thing.
We have the altar set up.
Altar
and then we
set
did the
up.
feng shui, And it's so awesome because the things that, I thought there was no other place for my bed in our room. And I'm like, that's going to be weird. And it actually looks way better. So I'm like, yay, I got a cuter room and I'm sleeping. So, So thank you.
It's amazing.
Thank
you.
And you were so comfortable to talk to, and I just felt like very comforted. I knew, your background. I knew, that you are what I consider a metaphysical Christian, and that brought so much comfort to me. And so I just want to, bring that up because if there is anyone listening that, has been conditioned to believe that it's wrong, maybe this is, something that can like open their mind a little bit because I used to be that person and man, if go ahead.
I am still skeptical with people. I mean, I feel like it's really important to follow your intuition when you're going to someone for spiritual insight or healing on any level. And, I don't even like calling myself a healer because I'm an instrument in the universe's hands. I don't feel like, for me, it's a humbling process. And I've taken a lot of time in my life to be like literally dropped to my knees in pain and grief and all sorts of things to be able to open me wide enough to get out of my own way and let the universe work through me. And so I am so grateful for every single moment. Thank you. Yeah, I am blown away by it every day.
Wow,
and,
go ahead.
That's amazing.
I don't take it lightly.
Yeah, that's a great point. Just two quick things there, and then this kind of ties into the next thing I was going to talk to you about. First off, I love that you said you're an instrument because one of the things that we want to make really clear, especially in the community we're trying to build, is that we're vessels. Like, we're not at all trying to make it seem like we are physically healing it, because we're not. We're literally vessels. Nope. Like, we've learned how to become really good vessels is what I feel like. We're still learning, still learning every day. We're all still learning.
We'll always be learning, I hope, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely, yeah.
And I really don't believe that we heal anyone. I believe that we teach people how to heal themselves or show them tools that will assist them in healing themselves, showing them that they do have the power, because we've been conditioned to believe that we don't.
Yeah, I always tell my clients, if someone is professing to heal you or asking you, I don't even know. It's like, okay, like with money, that's not a tough thing for me. I think money is important because it's an energetic exchange and it shows a commitment. And in our culture, money is the way that is, most obvious. If we lived in a time where we could, trade with, I don't know, some avocados or something for a session, heck yeah, and I would do that with someone if that's what they had.
That's
I
amazing.
have done many trades, But it's also a matter of like listening to your heart, and if something doesn't feel right, don't do it.
Right.
And,
exactly.
I was going somewhere with this, and I don't even remember what it was.
Girl, I do that all the time.
That's 80% of Megan's conversation. So.
Yes, all the time.
If someone's professing to heal you or making you feel like you are, like, oh gosh, I'm in this one group on Facebook. There's these people that say, I'll give you a free reading, and then they'll email you and tell you that you're cursed and you need to send them money. And
what?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I've seen that on some of the other groups. Yes.
I've never seen that. That's crazy.
I have.
Oh my gosh. It happens all the time.
A lot of people from other
my
countries.
Heart because there are some very vulnerable people. And number one, being cursed, whatever, that's another subject. But we are so powerful, and I'm here to help empower someone. And this is my whole point of my whole going on.
There it is.
Yay!
Here it is. And this is it. Like with me, I hope that one session is enough, because if that's enough, that's awesome.
Right.
And so that's the thing too. It's like, it's an amazing experience to have that one little slice of someone's sacred space and be able to hold that with them.
Well, yeah, what a fulfilling job. What you do, that's got to be so fulfilling.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh my gosh. It's so amazing. And I always learn something too in the midst of it all. And I'm so grateful for that, because we're all each other's teachers.
Oh yeah. Not to take a different, darker turn, but one of the things that, on a side note, really interests us with you. This podcast is about stories of healing and spiritual gifts, and you got both, which is just phenomenal. But one thing we wanted to ask about, from what we know, it sounds like you've had a pretty traumatic past. Could you take us through some of that?
Yeah, I don't want to make it really for people who are listening.
Oh yeah, whatever you're comfortable with, totally.
Yeah,
girl, my first episode was like that too. So I don't know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that maybe could not have even finished it.
Yeah.
But it's my story, and this is your story.
Yeah. Okay. Well. So I mentioned I was raised in a household that was abusive. It was really, really strange because, when I was born, it was my mom and my dad. They were divorced when I was 2 and all that good stuff. And I have a mother who really struggles with some mental illness issues and a lot of darkness, which I believe actually helped me to develop my intuition, because honestly I had to be in her presence and feel like it was very much a coping mechanism as a child, because I had to constantly gauge my safety. And that was more so, I think, when I was around 7. More physical abuse happened later, like around 7, 8. But she was just very all over the place. She was a single mother for a long time, and there was just a lot of behaviors that were really strange.
Yeah.
Was she diagnosed with anything?
She's been all over the board, and she also has done about 20 different medications for physical ailments as well. And it's really sad, because when I was pretty young, she was really fun, because she'd have these manic. I think she's probably bipolar with a lot of other elements.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Narcissistic as well. So she would have these really great moments, and God, we'd have so much fun. We'd dance and sing, and she was like hanging out with a big sister or something. But then the dark parts that came through were just terrifying, especially as I got a little older. And there would be things like, I don't know, I had never been hit before by an adult. My dad and I were really close. And she joined the Mormon church, like I said, when we had our tornado. And she decided that I was really close to my dad's family as well, and very close-knit people, and they were like a huge support for me. And she decided they were bad for me when I was about 7 and kidnapped me. And she took me from Wisconsin, where I was born, to Seattle. And then she told me for 2 months before it happened, she had me pray every night that she would find my stepfather, whoever that was going to be, that he would come into our lives.
Oh my God.
And she said, and she said, I'm going to be taking you to Seattle, and don't tell your dad. And so every time he'd come pick me up for visitation, I knew, he'd come every other weekend, I knew that it might be the last time I saw him, as much as I could comprehend that as a child.
Oh, what a mind screw.
Oh, it was so bad. It was so bad because he was everything to me. I've got tears in my eyes talking about him.
Oh, really?
So she did it. She stuck my brother, who was my half brother. She stuck us in the car and drove us to Seattle from Wisconsin. And she used to do this thing where she falls asleep driving. She took speed and things when I was little, and so she would be inebriated, or not inebriated, but otherwise altered, and she'd be telling me to hit her to keep her awake.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, and I was like between the ages of 5 and 7 doing this when it first started, and so I'd be doing this, and one time we were driving, and I'm pretty sure this was on the way to Seattle. We ended up in the grassy median in the middle of a freeway, and we were because I didn't hit her, I was looking out the window. I remember this, and I looked up, and there was this big cement divider, and I started screaming. And from that point on, I've been car sick in my life. It's just like, oh my God. But one of the things that's been really hard about her that also ties into my intuition and my gift was she always says, even to this day, if I talk to her, she did this 3 months ago about something I tried to discuss with her. You remember that wrong. You were a child. That's not the way it happened. And so anyway, she took me to Seattle, and I had always had this thing with numbers since I was a kid. I would remember weird numbers and phone numbers and stuff. I remember my dad's work number somehow.
Wow.
And yeah, we'd been gone for months. And we had these old neighbors. We lived in West Seattle when it was really dangerous. And I had to walk to school every day by myself because my brother and I went to different schools, and my mom left early to go to work. We had these old neighbors named the Fleischman, and they were like 80-something years old. The woman was blind, the man was deaf. And I went over to their house one day, and I said, can I call my daddy at work? And they said, oh, yeah, of course. They didn't know it was long distance.
Oh, my gosh.
And he picked up the phone. He just started sobbing. He goes, where are you? Where are you? I said, I'm home. I'm in Seattle. And he's just like, oh, my God, I've had police looking. I mean, it was, but yeah, that was, I think, the beginning of, other than the tornado, that was the beginning of, the really painful stuff.
I mean, there's so much brain development going on that age. Man.
Yep. It's all really interesting how we go through things as children and how we develop, and the pain and all the things we're picking up on and the ways we learn how to survive. So around that time, she met my stepfather, and she dated a ton of different guys, and I mean, there's a lot with all that too. But this man came to the door, and I went to the door, and I ran up the stairs. I said, I don't like him. And she goes, oh, don't be a brat. She always called me a brat. Don't be a brat. And I felt like when he breathed, it just made me feel incredibly uncomfortable.
Ew.
And that was just the only way I could put it. And this is hard for me to talk about because I have developed, there's a lot of mixed feelings there because I do love him, although that was the doorway to a lot of intense abuse. And that's always hard. And the healing, that's one thing I work with clients, it's like you can have both feelings for someone. You can have a lot of love for someone even though they destroyed you inside, and that's okay. That's part of the shame and all the things you have to work through when you're healing.
Wow.
So yeah, they got married a month and a half after they met. I'd only met him 1 or 2 times. He had 4 children from another marriage that were my automatic step-siblings. I had never met these people, and I think I met them once. But then all of a sudden, it was way different rules. It was like you're gonna do things my way, and very strict Mormon. And my mom completely changed, and she got pregnant right away with my sister who I adore. And then we moved across the United States. We were living up in Mia Bay, Washington, way out in the middle of nowhere on a native reservation because my stepdad worked for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife. Anyway, we ended up moving across the United States, all of us in cars, and my mom had just had my baby's parents, so at that point she was like, and there was just a lot going on where she started to shift. My mom started to kind of adapt this really puritanical view about religion. And, you know, at that point in time, I really loved church because I loved the music and primary. I loved all of those things. It was nice to have community with other kids. But things went dark pretty fast when we moved to Virginia. Because my mom's thyroid went out. She had a high risk pregnancy with a little girl, and that was the next really painful thing for me. She was in bed. She was supposed to stay in bed. Her cervix was really screwed up, and she had a cerclage. So if she got up, she could go into preterm labor, and they had us really working hard at chores and things like that. And if you didn't do it right, you'd just get backhanded.
Yeah.
You know, and once again, some of those things that I've been through, I think have taught me a lot of things that are good, but that's never, ever okay. So, you know, she came out of the bedroom one time. I was scrubbing the floor. I was 10 years old, and she was pregnant with my sister, and she came up and she goes, "What are you doing?" And I said, I'm cleaning the floor, Mom. And she goes, "You're not doing it right." And she started to say, you know, she can't do anything right.
What?
Oh my God.
She grabbed me, yeah. And so my first feeling is the baby.
Oh,
you know, 'cause it's been reached left and right. You can't be out of bed. You can't be doing this. You need to go back to bed. And I said, "Mommy, no, I can do it. And she's like, "You can't do anything right." So she grabbed the rag out of my hand, because I was on my hands and knees with this rag. And she said, she started to just violently clean the floor, because she'd get so mad sometimes. And she was just putting her whole body into it. And she'd turn around and she had the most painful look on her face. She said, "If I lose this baby, it's your fault."
Oh my God.
Gosh.
And she said, "Because you didn't listen and you can't do this right."
Oh.
And I looked at her and I started crying and said, "Mom, I'll do it. And she said, "No." And she did it, and she started bleeding, and she lost my sister.
What?
And yeah, and that night, the next day, I think was the beginning of probably the pain in my life on huge levels, because I remember everything being in slow motion and quiet, and then all of the pain. I felt like I had killed my sister. I know that I didn't.
Wow.
You know, but it was absolutely excruciating, and she ended up being in bed a lot after that. I mean, she just kind of disappeared, and so she'd be in bed for 3 days at a time, and then get up and rage and be cleaning really violently. And if we didn't clean right, then my stepdad would come in and beat us up, and we'd have these long lectures about scriptures and how we weren't good enough and all this stuff. And I mean, if you want to be with your sister, her name's Rachel, if you want to be with her someday, then you need to do this and this and this right, and you're not.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and so I would pray every night that I could see her and that I could tell her I was sorry. And you know,
oh my gosh.
The thing my mom told me I was making up just a few months ago was I was talking to her about how I lost my son, and it was the same time along as Rachel was and everything, so it was really, really awful. And I told her, you know, I remember sneaking to go see those pictures of her that you guys had taken, because I just wanted to see her so badly. She goes, "There were no pictures." And I'm like,
What?
Mom, there was a box underneath your bed. It was a white box. I used to do it, and I was afraid of telling you that I did it. She said, no, there were no pictures ever. And so that sort of thing.
Jeez.
Oh my gosh. So I have to ask, because I know what shame and guilt can do, not only to you on a soul level and spiritually, energetically, but physically. Like, did you develop any chronic illnesses or anything?
Oh, yeah. It's really interesting that you had asked that. So I had already developed some pretty chronic illnesses before Rachel died. It was around the time she married my stepdad, who also, and this is really hard for me to expose all this to you guys, because I do fear, I don't ever want to blacken anybody's names. I'm grateful for having a home growing up. I'm grateful for all those things. However, this is the truth. And when I was like 8, I started to have a lot of psychosomatic illnesses. I started to have pain in my body. My stomach was really, really, really messed up.
Ugh.
I started to choke when I ate. Like I would just be eating something and all of a sudden my esophagus would close. And around the same time, they took me in for a physical, and my doctor said she's been sexually abused. And she told my mom to ask me, if someone had touched me. And my mom instead took it upon herself to give me an exam.
Oh,
Check.
my God.
What?
And, yes. And so then,
Oh my God.
to make a very long story short, my stepfather had been doing things, and my grandmother even had called me when I was in my 20s, and she said, I'm so sorry, I never stood up for you. Like, I saw this happen in my home when you guys were visiting. So I tried to talk to my mom about that, and she's like, oh, she's crazy. She was making that up.
Oh, my God.
And I'm like, yeah. And so there was not only, like, he would grab me by the hair all the time, and that was the big thing, grabbing me by the hair, and then tickling me in very inappropriate way, just all sorts of touching and stuff. And as an adult, I tried to talk to my mother about that as well, and she said, well, you were the only one who wasn't his natural child. So it's okay if, it makes more sense that he'd be attracted to you. I'm like,
what?
I was a child.
Oh,
There's no
my
attraction there.
gosh.
It has nothing
She's,
to do
yeah.
with
Sick.
So,
Wow.
and so my stomach, started acting up. I started to have
That's
all these
interesting.
illnesses.
That's how mine started. It was gut issues. Yes.
Yep,
And
it
then
makes perfect sense.
it always
I'm
starts in the
44
gut.
Now. Yeah, I'm 44 now, and I wasn't diagnosed with my Crohn's, and there's this other thing I can't even pronounce, this other disease that I have, but it's in my esophagus, and there's too many white blood cells, so it closes. And I still to this day, every time I eat, I have to be careful because I choke constantly.
That's so interesting. Yeah, I have to be very careful with diet, or my stomach just distends, and it definitely affects my esophagus, because it's like starts at where my heart is and goes all the way down, and I just my stomach can get ginormous. It's crazy. It's so crazy.
It is. It's crazy, and because of all that stomach stuff and the shame and this religious kind of undercurrent of shame as well, and all these things that I'm learning. And once again, I'm a devout Mormon as a child.
Right.
It was everything to me.
Well, and think about this, even on an energetic level, it makes sense for our throats or to be affected too, because it's we had to keep things secretive for so long.
You had to keep quiet. Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. So whenever there's any stress or anything that feels wrong in your esophageal tract, which is really, really triggering to think about, you close it.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
so it keeps you quiet. I also developed asthma, really bad asthma. So I couldn't breathe, which was understandable. He'd hold me down and he'd tickle me until I couldn't breathe.
Ew, that sucks.
And that was part of part of what happened.
Ew.
And so when I was like 11 or 12, my big brother, who I had mentioned before, was my mother's child as well. He ended up having a huge psychotic breakdown. And he had started washing his hands until they were bleeding when he was like 8.
Oh,
And he was
no.
constantly obsessing. He was always like thinking that he did something sexually inappropriate to me or to my sister, and he was just, I mean, he's the nicest, most, he's so intelligent. And,
Lily.
And he would dance down the hall in school like a ballerina and sit in the middle of senior hall. People would kick him in the head, and I mean, it was awful.
Oh my God.
Yeah, because he was so severely mentally ill at the time. And it was because of our upbringing. But when he had that happen, he was put in a psych unit for quite a long time. And it was like 2 months or something. And then very shortly after that, I made my first suicide attempt. And I was probably 12. And I was hospitalized. And then I had a roommate who was anorexic, and I picked up all sorts of fun tricks to make myself disappear. And I spent 20 years trying to make myself disappear.
Now, did you develop a eating disorder?
Absolutely. And part of it was really easy for me because eating hurt.
So can you explain on that? Because, you know, I have a dear friend that is going through that. And she has been bulimic for many, many years, been to like, I don't know, several rehabs. So many.
Yeah.
And it's sad. She can't think of anything like she was bullied, but like, it's interesting. I feel like there has to be something that she suppressed, you know, but how did you overcome that battle? Because there's many people just like her out there, and that may be listening to this that are dealing with that too. And like, how did you do it?
Yeah. Well, that is a long, long story, but I will say that its origin, I believe, is wanting to disappear, wanting your feminine attributes somehow on a subconscious level to go away. I would wear big, huge, baggy things to hide. And I just, you know, I became like size 0, and I still looked big to myself. I would still cry and cry, and it got to the point where they had to take me out of school because I was too little and too weak. And the only thing I would do is get up to work out. And I did 800 crunches a day, and then I would get on this little mini trampoline.
800?
On it. Yeah, I was obsessed. And for some reason, that was the number. And it was just like I would make myself do that, and then the rest of the day I was in bed because that was all I had, you know. And I would eat like one apple a day. I ended up hospitalized, and
So you were anorexic, not bulimic.
No, I was severely anorexic, and also it developed into something that my counselor called anorexia athletica, because then I started running, and I would run, and then it was like, oh, I did 6 miles this day, I can do 10 miles tomorrow, and then, I mean, there was no grace period, and I would just push myself, and honestly, the beginning of my healing, I think, was my children. Because I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt that their eyes are what have kept me on this planet. Like knowing that what would happen to them if I left. Even though sometimes my darkness would creep in and go, okay, they would be better off if you weren't here. They would be better off with a better mother. You know, this is the sort of things that come into your head when you're hurting.
Yeah.
And in that dark space, you know, there was no way. So when I had Gabriel, I think at that point, I ran 7 miles a day till I was 6 months along with him. I was viciously anorexic when I was pregnant with him. Yeah, I was in trouble. Like, And it got, before that I was taking like 20 laxatives a day, and I was really sick.
Wow.
And that I didn't do that when I was pregnant. That's what I'm saying. Like, I stopped doing that stuff, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna run. And then I passed out in the bathroom one time and hit the floor, and I was pregnant with him, and it was like, no, this is the end of it. And
wow.
And it wasn't even the end of it, but it was the beginning of the end.
Right.
Of the behaviors. And another thing that has absolutely been a saving grace for me is yoga. Yoga has been one of the most important healing factors in my life. It is the one thing that has taught me forgiveness for the things that I had judged myself for, which meant really just let it go,
Yeah.
And being in the moment and loving yourself no matter, because yoga has this beautiful thing about it. It's like every day your body is different. And so, there's hormonal fluctuations, there's balance differences, there's all sorts of things that are based on our emotions and our surroundings and sleep and all those things. And so you learn to really have compassion for yourself.
Yeah.
And it's a really beautiful journey. So that has been huge. And honestly, I didn't overcome the suicidal ideation until God, 5 years ago. So that's been a big part of my path. And that was because I mentioned earlier I lost a baby. And losing him was like the catalyst for so many things for me. So I've been practicing, I've been doing work with clients, I've been doing all these things since 2001. But there were always parts of me that I just couldn't feel. I just couldn't get to. And one of those things was that darkness that wanted to take me down.
Oh,
and,
girl, I know. That resonates. I know what you're talking about.
Wow.
Right?
And I do want to say real quick, it is what this conversation right here is the epitome of what can truly create a space that starts to turn things around in the world and heal. Because it is I can't put into words how difficult it must be to have these, and you're speaking with such like poise and with such like dignity and confidence about these things that are so difficult that you went through. And there are so many people that have went through less or something similar that couldn't imagine ever talking to anyone about it. They're just there with them in their own heads, and they have all this shame and this guilt, and they're sick, and they're thinking these things, and they're feeling trapped. And that's the scary place in the human experience, is when the mind goes to a trap. And what
100%.
And what you're doing right now is actually creating a chance for there to be a little light in their trap. Because like, wow, this person is saying all this, and how the hell is she doing that? Like, all of this, like, that's one of the things I took away from Megan and the ayahuasca experience and her talking about her story. It's crazy how similar y'all's, it's just a whole crazy similar thing. But man, it's just, I just gotta say, I mean, I can't put into words how much as a human, I appreciate you being able to say all of this and put it out there, because there are so many people you'll probably never meet that you're truly going to change the lives of just by speaking about this.
Thank you.
Well,
I just have to say too, thank you for the opportunity, but also whoever's listening, please hear me from my heart and my soul. It is never impossible to heal. It is never too late. I don't care if you're 80. I don't care if you're, at any point in your life, if you're involved in an abusive relationship, if you're sick, if you're wanting to end your life every day because you have no hope. Like, I promise you that there is hope, and I promise you that you have angels and guides and ancestors that are surrounding you in an absolute circle of light and love, and you're not alone. That was the one thing, you guys, that got me through this, was that when I was a little girl, I had that connection to the divine, and I always went back to that as my anchor. It was always there. And it was, even in my darkest thoughts, I was praying. And I was saying, please stop me. Please help me. Please show me a reason to stay. And then I'd take a walk or something, and there'd be a feather, or there would be...
Oh, I love that.
Song lyrics or something that pops in. Music has also been a huge healer for me. But, I mean, I'm talking about like 5 years ago when I lost my son, like I was saying. I was on my bathroom floor for 3 months in the fetal position. And, you know, this is really, really, really personal, but I'll just share it because of what you just said, and I think people need to know I'm serious.
Yeah.
I would, this is triggering, but I would sit there with a towel around my neck and stop to breathe, and I would think, just go. And I called suicide hotlines every night because I was in so much pain. My baby had died, my milk had come in. Everybody in my life left me because they didn't know how to talk to me. I literally was by myself, and I had 2 kids. My oldest was going through a lot of struggles. My youngest would go to school. He was, 14 at the time. Something like that, yeah. No, 15. He was 15. And he'd go to school during the day, and that was when I would fall apart because I didn't want him to see it. And, like, before he got home from school, I would shower, and I'd go out, and I'd, like, get ready, and I'd, how are you doing? And then I started self-harming. And I punched myself in the face so hard one day that I gave myself a black eye. And he looked at me, and he's like, Mom, what happened to you? I said, I did this. And he said, and he put his hands on my face, and he looked in my eyes. He goes, beautiful, Mommy. He goes, no. And I said, I promise you I will never do it again. And I didn't. And I made this, at this point I had already made a plan to end my life. And I was still going to do it. It was going to be my birthday. Because I convinced myself that I was so messed up and I'd had so much damage and so much pain, and how could I possibly be good for my kids? I couldn't even get up off the bathroom floor. How could I possibly be a good mother? And all these voices of all this crap that had been put in my head for so long were there, and I couldn't fight it. I was drowning, and so I made a plan. I had a friend who was a funeral director. I went to him and I said, you're the only person I would trust with my body. He goes, what are you talking about? He had taken care of the cremation of my baby and stuff, and I just cried, and he's like, Lily, no. And I'm like, everything's okay. I'm just trying to be smart. And I hid it as much as I could. But then, I ended up, I remember around the time that I had made this plan, I used to take Benadryl because I'm not a drug person at all. I don't even drink alcohol. And I was like, it would knock me out enough to get me through the day, but then I'd have all these really crazy dreams and stuff. And anyway, I ended up sitting there, and this voice said, get up. And I was like, okay. And it said, get up, you're going to get help. And I didn't have a car at the time. I spent years walking because it was like really, really important to me, and I sold my car to heal on a lot of levels. It was a long story too, but I went and I got on the bus, and I hadn't even like put on makeup, and I got on the bus, and the first thing that happened was there was a woman sitting there with a newborn, and I'm just like, oh my God, no. And I just started sobbing, and I went to a crisis center, and I walked in, and I hadn't talked to anybody for 3 months except for my kids. And I walked in, and there was a person at the front desk, and she looked at me, and she said, she said, how can I help you? And I said, my son died, and I just dropped. And she said, she goes, oh, Mama, and she goes, come here, and she gave me a big hug. I hadn't been hugged for a while. My partner, it destroyed him too, and we ended up like not being together because of this whole thing. But so I ended up in a crisis center talking to the most wonderful woman named Susan. And Susan and Lily are the same names, by the way. Susan pseudonym means lily.
Oh.
And it was just like this beautiful, beautiful experience. And she said, no wonder you're where you're at. She said, you're hurting so deeply. And it was just like that, being able to talk.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to give my clients space, because I'm already feeling all these things from them and picking up on them. And I've spent years and years and years developing skills and all sorts of things. But my son Luca, this boy that I lost, and that means bringer of light. And I had named him that before I lost him. He was, and he is my bringer of light, because he healed that last wound. She brought so much clarity into the section of me that wanted to end me, that dark thing that was clinging on to me. It was gone because I went to a year of therapy. I started to do my yoga religiously, all these things. And so part of what I do with my clients is I try to let them know, like, your biggest wound is probably where your light is. And that is where you can find connection and hope and healing. And I believe in that very, very strongly, because on the outside looking in, I had a lot of issues on a lot of levels, naturally, from like how I grew up. But I was also functioning, and I was working with people all the time, and all these things. In art galleries, I'm an artist, all this stuff was going on, but nobody knew how bad it was. And so back to what you were saying, David, like, to the people out there who are hearing this, you are so important. I mean, even if you feel so alone, like, a lot of times the people that seem to have it together the most or have really amazing gifts, none of us are immune. None of us.
Not at all.
Right.
Well, hey, on that note, Lily, we're at about minute 57, and they only do 60-minute intervals, so I'm going to pause here. I love that last statement you said. I want to end on that, and then if you're up for it, I'll just start another timer and give you a ring right back, if that's cool.
Sure.
But I want to end on that. You said it was a beautiful quote. Lily Huffman's quote. It was, in your deepest wound is where you'll find your light, or something along those lines?
Yeah. I mean, Rumi said that originally, something along those lines.
Wow, it's beautiful. It's beautiful, and it's just so true. Awesome.
The wound is where the light enters, or something like that. So
That's awesome. Well, thanks so much, Lily. I'm really excited to go. We're going to have our very first part 2 here. So we'll be publishing both of these 2 together. So I'm going to hang up with you, and then I will give you a ring right back. And everyone else, stand by for part 2. Hey, what's up, everyone? David here again with the Maegical Stories of Healing and Spiritual Gifts podcast here with Megan.
Hello.
And if we are going to part 2, episode 2 of Lily Huffman's story, Reiki Master. And if you haven't listened to part 1, stop what you're doing right now. Go back to listen to part 1. It was definitely one of our most deep, touching episodes, and it's something that everyone really should hear, especially if you're in a tough place. Definitely listen to someone who's been through it and really overcome it and come out on top for so many reasons. But we have Lily back here with us, and now what we're going to talk about now is just kind of some modes of healing, like what she's done to heal, some things that have helped her with healing, and kind of bring it up to where you're at today, everything you're doing today with your practice and all that. So I guess my first question, Lily, is what have you used to heal? What's helped you in your healing process?
Oh my God, anything I could get my hands on. I was hungry for healing from the time I was a kid. And I mean, I used music without knowing it, performing and listening. I used talking to old people. That was one of my biggest things. I was a CNA and an Alzheimer's and hospice caregiver for years. And talking to them helped me feel not alone. Oddly enough, I would read accounts of the Holocaust and things like that, people that had overcome enormous odds. they helped me heal. Iyanla Van Zant has been a big one. I love her. Debbie Ford, Wayne Dyer, Louise Hay. You mentioned Abraham and Esther Hicks.
Oh, yeah.
They were later on for me as far as learning that I was the architect of my reality.
Right.
And if I was in unison with the universe and my thoughts, it's all about neuroplasticity. And so I started to learn. Oh, The Artist's Way was a big one for me too, by Julia Cameron. Amazing book.
Awesome.
Helps you overcome the shame that you have that holds you back from being creative, which is an essential part of our being. We're all artists of some type.
Shame. So shame's a big one. Could you repeat that book again? Because I think a lot of people deal with that. What was that book you said's good for that?
The Artist's Way.
The Artist's Way. Awesome.
Helps, it helps you to kind of step back into your power to create and be a creative being and, have joy and all those things. Gosh, as far as relationships and healing, because boy, oh boy, we could have another 5 hours about relationships with me.
Yeah.
I've made a lot of mistakes and I've hurt and been hurt because of my patterns that I've learned, and just having to overcome all those things and actually allow myself to receive love and give love in a way that was authentic and vulnerable. Vulnerability is everything.
Oh, yeah.
Brene Brown, oh my God, amazing woman. I mean, I could list all these people, Carolyn Midd, Thich Nhat Hanh, Pema Chodron, all these amazing teachers and masters who I consider part of my entourage and my battalion of light warriors that I have with me constantly. I would leave notes to myself. I am safe. I am enough. I am powerful.
That's awesome.
And turn that stuff around, because God, the anxiety and all of the depression is so heavy. You just walk around and you're like, you feel invisible and you feel powerless, and you give up your power in family relationships or in personal relationships or at work, and you just lose who you are. And so I think around the age of about 26, I left the Mormon church. And there was a lot that fell down around that whole thing that, if we have another podcast another day.
Yeah, for sure.
But that was a really big turning point for me, because they were everything to me. It was my biggest support system. I was a teacher there. I was a leader. At different points you have callings, and so you do different things. I played a lot of music for church. I would accompany choirs and sing myself and do all these things. And it was where I had created a net of safety, because that's what I was taught. And when I started to realize it wasn't my kind of net of safety for many reasons, I left. And that, I think, was the beginning of the healing too. Because it was, although that was a long time ago, I mean, that was almost 20 years ago, it was an essential part of me finding my intuition again, going back into all of that. And it corresponded with my son almost dying and me becoming a Reiki master. And so 2001, I became a Reiki master. I didn't know what the hell I was doing, frankly.
I love the realism. That's amazing. I love it.
I really didn't. I mean, I knew what I was feeling. I felt it, but I still questioned it.
Sure.
And I was working. I opened up my Reiki practice. I had an office and everything, and I was doing all these things with clients. And as I was attuned to further levels of Reiki, the intuition started to be like, I'd have medical intuition and all these things. And of course, you can't diagnose people, but I noticed I could feel in my body where the problem was with somebody. So if I was working on them, I'd go, oh, wow, okay, so you have an injury in your right knee. And they're like, whoa. I'm like, yeah, my knee's on fire right now,
Wow.
So, it was really, really cool. And things would happen, like there was this woman who came to me, and she was very ill. She had cancer. And universe helped me to know that the doctors thought her cancer was in the wrong spot. It was actually not in her stomach. It was in her esophagus. And I said, I'm not a doctor. I mean, I don't claim to know this stuff, you know?
Right.
I'm like, I'm not a doctor, but please go in and get a second opinion and have them look at your esophagus. She's still alive.
And that's where it was.
You know? Yeah.
Oh.
So that stuff just blows my mind. So, you know, all of this stuff, I was healing with my clients. I would have them come in, and the universe does this beautiful thing where if we need to work on something inside of our hearts or inside of our minds or our souls, it brings a mirror in the form of another person. Now, that other person can really piss you off. They can be awful. You know, they can be abusing you even. That's where you learn your power. And that's the tricky thing. You know, you don't put up with abuse ever.
Yeah.
Under any circumstance.
Yeah.
100%. But you learn through all of these things. And people in my life have been like, how can you even sit here? Because, I mean, what I said in the first episode is just like maybe a third, if that. I mean, it's not even, it's such a long story that, you know, and there's so many layers, and all of us have those layers. Every one of us has our stories and our layers, and it's all relative. Like, just because I've been through such and such amount of trauma doesn't mean that it's any more painful or any more deep than somebody who just maybe, you know, their dog died, and it just destroyed their heart, you know?
Oh, yeah, trauma is trauma.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the things that's really important, too. So, like, some people will come to me and be like, you know, this isn't really that big deal, you know? And I'm like, how do you feel?
Yeah.
You know, it's a huge deal. You are so valid and hurting right now. It's okay, you know? So I learned all those things as I was working with clients. And I think that that was one of the greatest gifts from the universe that I had with people mirroring back to me parts of me that I needed to face, parts of me that I needed to accept, parts of me that I needed to seek healing for myself. I had many years of therapy, many years of therapy, different types of therapy. I think dialectical behavioral therapy was my saving grace when I lost.
What was that?
Dialectical behavioral therapy. It's called CBT.
What is that?
CBT.
Yep, it's based on mindfulness.
Oh.
And so, yeah, and I'm telling you guys, like, after I lost Luca, I treated therapy like my full-time job. I went 4 days a week to group and to individual because I had to, because it was there.
Yeah.
It was necessary. And I went for a year. And it was the most profoundly amazing cathartic experience in my life because it teaches you to get in touch with your needs.
Yeah.
And then it teaches you how to talk about those things in ways that aren't loaded or projecting or blaming or anything like that, because I had learned a lot of really unhealthy patterns. And I didn't even know I was doing them, you know?
Yeah.
It puts you into victim mode, and then pretty soon you hate yourself because you're not living in accordance to who you really are, but you don't understand why.
Yes.
So, you know, all of a sudden there's this light that's shining on these little parts, and you're like, oh, okay. Yeah, I do push people away.
Yeah.
And yeah, I can be passive aggressive. You know, and instead of going, oh my God, I'm a horrible human, it's like, oh, and that's because when I was 5, this happened, and I can attach these things. You know, they can connect the dots and go, oh, okay, inner child, I'm going to put my arms around you, and I'm going to re-teach you that you don't have to do that. You don't have to live in survival mode. You get to play now.
Oh.
You get to be joyful.
And that was
You
me
get to
forever.
enjoy your life.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was me forever. I was in, you know, all my labs would show that I was just constantly in, like, you know, that fight or flight mode at all times. At all times. Yeah.
Me too. I mean,
until ayahuasca,
in my past relationship, my God, up until the last few years of my life, I was not capable of having a real relationship. Because
you know, and
I didn't.
Is this, and
I
if
didn't
this
know
is,
how.
if this is too personal, you don't have to answer this. It's something that, you know, having abuse. Now, wait, were you? Yeah, because you were sexually. So,
I was also raped at the age of 16, and that's something we didn't talk about. But there's a lot of that sexual stuff accompanied with deep sexual shame from the particular religion I was raised in.
Do you have issues with intimacy now as an adult?
I still struggle.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It is.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And you know, though, I have a very loving partner who's very patient with me, who also has his struggles because, once again, we mirror each other. But
right.
The pressure isn't there. The pressure isn't there. And
yeah,
so now,
I get it. That's so awesome. I'm so happy that you have that.
Oh, thank you. I'm very lucky.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had our stuff, but boy, I'm very lucky. And you know, I've gone through this whole thing of, like, earlier on in life, I was overly sexual in a way that wasn't true to who I was.
Yeah.
Because I was actually always kind of a purist. I was a really naive kid who didn't get that stuff at all. I was really passionate and really, really sensual, like in the terms of, like, you know, I'm an artist, I'm a musician, I dance.
Right.
Things matter to me, but I didn't understand all the sexual undercurrents. To me, it just repulsed me.
Yep.
And then I think that's because of the abuse too, but then when I was in my 20s, I started to go the opposite direction, and everything was over-sexualized, and if I was in a relationship, I was just pretending.
Yeah.
And playing a role, and but never letting anyone really, I mean, I don't mean physically when I say this, but never really letting anyone in, ever.
Yeah.
and then pushing them away and playing head games with them, you know. And I mean, there have been some really good guys in my life who I'm very sorry to for having to deal with some of my trauma, because they didn't, you know. But I, you know, I went through a phase of making apologies to people too, and you can't beat yourself up for that.
No.
We're all learning.
Yep. Absolutely.
But yeah, going through all that stuff and learning. So back to the relationship thing, I was going to say that one of the best books that I can ever encourage anybody to read who is looking into relationship as conscious spiritual path is Love and Awakening, and it's by John Wellwood. And it really opened my heart and my mind to see, because we have this sort of thing in our culture that, you know, people are very disposable. We can just move through and go to the next person, and then, if they look at you wrong, then they're being abusive, you know, this sort of a thing. And yes, once again, there is abuse, and if you're feeling abused, absolutely get help, 100%. But there's also different things that we learn, and people, I think, can be very, very easy to just walk away, you know, with someone. And this book really opened my eyes to how that mirror is really a beautiful thing. And when things arise, it's often because we're so deeply connected to someone.
Wow.
So using conflict as an opportunity. Using it as, once again, if it's not abusive, but conflict, you know, that edginess that you get and that ongoing fight that you have as a couple, and you just keep hitting it, and you're like, oh my God, this again, Groundhog Day, you know?
Yep, Megan just leaves the dishes.
Whatever, David.
Just kidding.
Don't even.
So one thing on that note, you were like, you're hitting the nail on the head with the. So not to go off topic too much, but I lived in New York City for like 5 or 6 years, and it is the land of instant gratification. Like, and I grew up. I was born in Oklahoma, grew up in Virginia, slightly country part of Virginia. I don't know nothing about that. I'm like kind of a southern boy, and I went up there, and I was like, what? But it's just a whole nother world. I mean, you date for 2 minutes, and then if they say something wrong, it's on to the. I mean, we're very much conditioned in the society of instant gratification. The problem with that is the subconscious programming too. Like, and now you throw trauma into that also. It's all kinds of things, you know.
Oh my God!
So.
Media.
Forget we haven't.
We won't even. Well, that'll be another podcast.
That is definitely another podcast. Absolutely.
Oh my God, I would love to be part of that one.
I'm all about it. I love ruffling feathers around that topic, so I'm all about it.
Oh yeah, it's incredible. incredible. I mean, I raised my children with no TV.
None. We watched The Office on Netflix and Extraordinary Homes. That's about it.
You guys are gonna laugh, but we watch children's movies.
There you go.
And we binged on Little House on the Prairie.
There you go.
David makes fun of me because I like old movies.
Yeah.
And a lot of that stuff is really messed up too, frankly. But
I know.
Yeah, but I love documentaries too. But
I like reality stuff.
Yeah, me too. I prefer it. You know, and most of what people don't realize too is that everything you put in your mind, everything you put in your body, it's all consumption.
Yes.
Oh yeah. 100%.
It's all programming.
100%.
Yes.
Yep. So yeah. So all of my healing, I mean, that has been my path. It's been. I use this term with my clients a lot because it's what I've had to do. It's been like derailing a train with my bare hands. I mean, it's like, okay, I'm going to pick this thing up. It's going really fast. It's out of control. But I'm going to pick it up with my own hands and I'm going to put it on this other track.
Yeah.
And I mean, but that's why it's so beautiful because you have to, when you've been through a lot, you have to fight for yourself. You have to find tools. And it's this beautiful opportunity to come into contact with your intuition, with your guides, and to learn how to listen to yourself. That's been a huge, huge thing. I mean, I was someone who was so insecure. I felt like I couldn't even call and order a pizza or something when I was younger because I just felt like my mom would always make fun of my voice. She'd always mock me and she'd always say my voice. And I'm a singer too, and so it was always this you know, so I was always ashamed of aspects of myself, and I had to unlearn all that. So once again, working with clients, doing yoga. I also went through this phase of bodybuilding, and I was working on doing fitness competitions. And that was a huge part of it for me too, in realizing that my body needed food for fuel.
Oh, good.
And accepting that as, an eating disorder recovery person, that was an essential part too. Allowing it to build me up and make me feel better instead of it, feeling like the emptiness felt safer.
So you mentioned tools. I gotta ask. Yeah. We talk pretty often in regards to psychedelics on this show every now and again, and I know it's a big thing it helps a lot of people. It's definitely not for everyone, but I'm curious if psychedelics played a part in your journey. How when did those come into play for you? And tell me about your journey and experience with psychedelics.
Okay, so when I was younger, obviously I've said I was raised Mormon.
So y'all did it all the time there, right?
Yeah. I mean, I did it every morning.
Yeah.
It made the Book of Mormon make perfect sense. No,
right.
No, but when I was 18, I drank for the first time, and drinking's never been for me. I mean, I'm horrible when I drink because my filters are wide open. I've been the girl at the bar who's like, oh my God, you've been through this, and I just go for the person.
Oh God, yeah.
I'm not kidding. It's not a good idea.
Yeah.
So but with psychedelics, which I don't consider, for me, they are a sacred tool.
Yes. Oh, I love that you said that.
Yeah, they should not be something that you do. I mean, okay, I shouldn't say should not, because everybody's on their own journey, and people find what they need to find the way that they find it. For me, I wouldn't use them recreationally.
Yeah.
Because they have the ability to give us so much healing in the right setting.
Yep.
And so, the first time I did mushrooms, and I've only done them a few times. I'm not trying to sit here going, yesterday, the time that I did them, the 186th time. But the first time that I did them, I was 18. And I was teaching rock climbing at this rock wall, and these kids came in. They're like, hey, you want to come with us and party? We went and watched Dazed and Confused. I went to the laser light show. And then, I took mushrooms, and it was actually not a good experience at the time. because I didn't know what I was doing.
Oh no.
And I was with a bunch of strangers, and I don't consider that to be a healthy way to do it.
No.
Same with LSD. I did that section, and I was someone who studied the My Lai massacre and Holocaust and the Khmer Rouge and things like that. So that's where my brain went.
Wow. Oh no.
Probably not. At that point, developmentally ready.
Yeah.
To do something like that. Because I accessed some hellish things. Let me tell you.
Ooh.
That's terrible.
So, yeah, I know, right? So I didn't touch anything like that for a long, long time. And then, oddly enough, I was working in I probably won't say where I was working because the whole point is a customer came in and she said, we had talked many times just in passing. I was a cashier at this grocery store. And she said, I have something for you if you'd like it. And I was like, okay. And, she had mushrooms for me. And she had 6 grams of them. And she handed them to me across my register. And I'm like, oh, shit. I shoved them in
Wow.
my apron. And I'm like, okay, all right, yep, do, nothing to see here, I'm like, I'm going to get arrested. This is probably not a good idea. But I held on to them for a while because the intent was I was going to do them with my partner. And he went away on a trip. Well, and so did I. because the universe said to me, okay, you're dealing with this particular block. You want to go hardcore? You want to go through it?
Yep.
And I said, yep, it's time.
Wow.
And they're like, are you sure? And I'm like, yep.
Yep.
And so, I not only consumed some mushrooms, but I did all 6 grams.
Whoa,
And
heroic dose. That's awesome.
Yes, sir. And it was funny about that is that, okay, I was in the middle of a really, really bad Crohn's flare-up for a year.
Oof.
And I mean, really, really, really ill. And I was just like, I have to go deeper. I have to understand this, this psychic kind of hold on what's happening in my body. And I need to dig in, and I need to go.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that I'd done, the heroic, Terrence McKenna.
Oh, heroic dose. Absolutely. Yep.
I had no idea.
You actually did a gram over. You did a gram over what qualifies as it. So, yeah.
Well, that was the first time I did it. I did it again, like 6 months later. But yeah, it was, and I'm not a big girl. And, I hadn't done any of that stuff for years. And so, and I don't even drink alcohol or anything.
You were by
So
yourself?
it was like, okay.
You were
Yep.
by...
Woo.
And so I shut off the lights and I got my yoga mat out. I was doing some yoga. And I was laying there and I just had this most beautiful, profound feeling that I was surrounded by all this light and love. And then all of a sudden this voice said in my mind, it was probably like, I don't know, an hour into it, okay, it's time to do some mirror work. And I'm like, what does this mean? And this knowing said to me, you know what this means. You're going to talk to your ancestors. And I'm like, okay. All right,
Wow.
well, here we go. And, I've been in a dark room, and how when you're having an experience, all of a sudden it's like changing a chapter where you turn on a light or something.
Yeah.
And, I went into the bathroom, and, as women, well, as humans, but particularly as women because of societal conditioning, we're so hard on ourselves. And I'm looking in the mirror, and I have this enormous, well, this brings up another thing I want to say to you in a minute, but I had this enormous sense of love for myself, and I'd only felt that profoundly like this in another circumstance that I do want to bring up. But I was looking in the mirror, and like one side of my face was deteriorating. I mean, it was decomposing.
Yeah.
And I was looking at it, and I'm like, it's okay. It's okay. It's part of it. And then I was looking in my eyes, and it was like I could see all my ancestors in that side, and things that they've been through, and things that, and I had this enormous sense of forgiveness and pain and all these things. Like, I could feel all these feelings. And then this inner knowing told me, if you look back into your other eye, like, come back over here for a minute. And I did, and then that side was stable. And so it was like my left eye, I was looking in for all this knowledge and all of this wisdom and all of these clearings. And I was like, I'd go through this thing and I go, okay, that one's clear. All right, this one's clear. And it was like this methodical, like, inner baptism or something.
Wow.
And then I'd look over to the other side. It was like, okay, you're safe. You can go back if you want to. You don't have to. And back over. And I did that. God. Well, I was listening to the same song over and over again. And it was like about 3 hours of that.
Wow.
And it was wonderful. I mean, I had so much. That was the second time, actually. But yeah, I mean, the work that is, I really think that people should probably have a guide when they're doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
I had done such an extensive amount of therapy. I mean, I've fire walked a bunch of times. I've bent rebar with my neck. I've done all kinds of things. Therapy, gone to classes for nonviolent communication. I mean, the list of the things that I've done to find healing for myself, workshops, all sorts. I can't even begin. But even then, it probably would have been smart for me to have somebody with me. But for whatever reason, this is what happened. And it was very powerful, and I still access it. And Megan, I think you understand that. It's like an anchor. You can go back to that feeling, and it's like, yeah.
There's something powerful and healing to that. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I feel, so like, to answer your question, David, I absolutely feel like it is absolutely beautiful, sacred, and wonderful, and it needs to be respected and in the proper settings for healing. Certainly, I'm not judging people if they do it recreationally. Everybody has their path.
Right.
For me, it's a sacred thing.
Oh, yeah.
And it has to do with going deep.
Yeah, absolutely. That was one of the, Megan and I have had our experiences, and that was one of the big messages. Now it's more so when it's actually really rare that we will now, and it's always for clarity, and it's always very sacred. It's always very much a kind of a ceremonial type thing, and and whenever we're feel very guided to, it is not like, oh, you want to do it. It's not like that. It's like, oh, I kind of feel. Do you think? And we'll kind of be like,
we're like really needing clarity.
Clarity. Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
It's a beautiful. I don't know if it's a facilitator or what. It's like a facilitator to that divine world, and it's.
Oh, absolutely! It makes us like there's no barrier.
Yeah.
To it at all, and all of a sudden there's all these beautiful parts of yourself that you can feel again.
Oh,
and
yeah.
You can go into, and you can connect on a divine level. And it is real. It is a real experience.
Mm-hmm.
And it's profound and holy, in my opinion.
So you, so much.
I think it's illegal for a reason too. You asked me that question.
Yeah, I do too.
Why do you think it's illegal?
Because if it weren't, and if for instance other things that I consider to be very, very healing, if they were more accepted and legal, then people would heal.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh. Thank you.
For psychotropic meds and for mental restraint.
Yeah,
keep people in line.
And what kills me is, why are people okay with pharmaceuticals, which are chemicals, and we're talking about plants? And you know what I mean? It's like, if you think about it, it's like, hello, like with common sense, it's like, how could you? It blows my mind that people believe that way.
One of my what I feel one of some kind of foundational part of my purpose, I truly feel, and I mean this, I want to be clear that I don't think it's for everyone, and I think everyone should, it's such a comfort thing, but a huge part of my feel like divinely led to is help bring light to the true potential healing properties of psychedelics and how it could genuinely help people. It's been so instrumental in my life with my alcohol addiction in my past. It's been so instrumental for Megan. I've seen it help so many people. And yeah, that's a whole nother podcast is why I think they're illegal.
Absolutely.
But
it's wonderful.
It's definitely, I personally feel like they're illegal because there would be no reason to control anyone. We'd be able to actually help find our most enlightened self, and we'd be able to act in love. And if you act in love, you don't really need to be controlled. But that's a whole nother thing. Right. So we won't go down that route.
Versus fear. Oh God, I could go. I talk about this stuff all the time. People who will listen.
100. If they'll listen, that is the key because
it's so frustrating.
It is, but it's also about honoring their past, and then once again, we are all each other's mirrors.
Yep.
And we're planting seeds. And I've learned that if someone reacts in that way with me, it's because I need to learn something about myself.
Yeah, that.
And a lot of times, maybe there's still parts of me that are doubting it too, and it's just playing out. It's like, okay, well, how convicted, how much of a conviction, not convicted, how convicted am I? Well, that's another story. No, I've never been convicted. But seriously, though, it's like, how strong is my conviction about this? What is my truth?
Yeah, they,
okay.
Yeah, they.
Okay with differences.
Yeah, and there's always that power in planting a seed. That's what I always fall back on too. There's a really interesting meme that was posted in our group the other day that was so cool. It's you ever heard the Mr. Smith meme? Have you ever seen The Matrix?
Yeah. Yes, of course.
Oh, it's so cool. It's like the Matrix is so symbolic, and Mr. Smith pops up whenever the Matrix is threatened in any way, shape, or form. Yep. And the meme was so cool. It's like you can be having a normal conversation with someone for 2 hours, but then you bring up anything that is like might be threatening what is actually happening, and in the Matrix, then all of a sudden they change. Like they immediately people, and I have a whole write-up on. I did a whole write-up on it once called the backfire effect. It's cognitive dissonance in effect, where if you speak about anything that goes against someone else's core value, their brain literally feels like it's being attacked.
Yeah.
So
it puts them into fear mode and trauma. We live in such a trauma culture already, and that's a big part of it.
Oh,
is that we're constantly trying to protect ourselves.
Yeah.
Instead of be vulnerable and open. Yeah, exactly. And so, I am careful who I talk to about certain things, out of respect to them as well.
Yep.
Because I don't ever want them to think that I'm preaching or judging or anything like that when it comes to those things. Because everybody has their way and their path to coming to their truth and their connection to God, divine, however they want to interpret that. So, that's really important to me to not push myself onto people, but I was telling a client that recently too, like, if we can be an example with our actions and speak our truth, but not be pushy, love people. And like, I had that situation with my aunt this past week that I posted about in the group. It really made me sad, but it wasn't like sad in a victim sort of sense. It was more like I just genuinely want to connect with her, and it made me sad to see her fear of me.
Yeah.
Because I love her no matter what. I love her, and that's how I feel about people. It's like we don't have to be afraid of our differences, religion or anything. Our political opinions and things. It's important to have your view. It's important to have your voice, absolutely, and it's a beautiful thing that we're different.
Exactly. It'd be boring otherwise.
It'd be boring, and we wouldn't learn.
I think Megan and I both really resonate with the situation with your aunt. I mean, me with a lot of my even. Backing up a couple of years, still half my family doesn't talk to me because they heard about the psychedelics. But even the part that does, they're incredible people, love them to death. But this whole kind of metaphysical world, definitely, there's so much fear-based conditioning. They think anything outside of going to church and practicing in a church, and especially if you talk about the law of attraction, they think it's like the worst thing. And there's all this deceiving, and it's just unfortunate because we know how much love and light is in it, and we know,
have discernment.
And we do have discernment, and we've literally never been closer to God, and it's brought like so much genuine healing. That's the thing at the epitome of it all. Like, if someone's telling me no, this is bad, I'm like, okay, so you're telling me Megan healing all her trauma, being way happier, being able to be in a position to help other people, that's all from the devil, huh?
Yep.
Like, really? That's what you're telling me?
Oh, I know. My
Crazy.
mom told my ex that he needed to take my son away because I was practicing witchcraft.
Oh gosh, yep.
And even if that were my decision, I ask questions. Don't, but seriously though, it was so offensive to me that she was, number one, saying that I was, working with demonic sorts of energy.
Right.
When that's not me.
Right.
I'm clearly a light worker. That's everything. I have had to battle the demons. This is why I'm sharing this. I think that people who have had to battle the demons are light workers.
Oh my gosh.
Demonic.
Yeah.
That's so right. That's so right. You hit the nail on the head. That's one of the, Megan, we were just talking about this. One of the conclusions we came to, and again, there's no judgment in this statement, but what we found is most of the people that disagree strongly with metaphysical world or are so anti-psychedelics have never actually dealt with trauma or never dealt with addiction or never had to face...
That's debilitated them for half their lives.
Right.
Where they...
Or if they have, they're so afraid.
Yes.
That they're so rigid and they're living. Their bodies are all tight and they have disease and they...
Yep.
They have awful relationships or
yes.
they're just living a very numb existence where it's very predictable and which is okay. Let's face it. If that's how they need to deal with their trauma and that's how they're truly happy and that's what they believe, okay.
Right.
All right. I love you. Peace be with you,
Right.
That's not my reality. I'm a hardcore person, though. I dive in and I go all out,
Yeah, freaking heroic dose without a guide. That's crazy. I did a heroic dose too before, but I definitely had a guide. That's amazing.
Yeah, and like I said, I did it twice. I knew what I was up for the second time, and I still did it. But it was essential for me. And, like I was saying, I do want to say, when I did that second journey, and I was looking in my eyes, and I saw myself, and even though I looked like I was deteriorating, I looked very, very yucky. And really felt like just societally, standard-wise, I looked ugly. I could see all these flaws. I could see all these things. And I loved myself. It didn't matter. And the only other time I've had that happen is when I was 18 years old. I had gone through being raped. For 6 months, I couldn't walk after that experience because of, my mom has MS. They diagnosed me with MS. My neurologist said I was going to be in a wheelchair. I had, I had progressive MS, according to him. And I was a runner. I was, all these things. And it really, really, really freaked me out. And my dad's going, well, no one's going to ever want to see you perform, because I was also a musician. No one's going to want to come and see you perform if you're in a wheelchair. You need to do something that's safe. You need to do this. Well, I took 52 phenobarbital and said, fuck this. I'm done. And excuse me for the strong language.
No,
seriously, that's
go for
where I was. And I was like, I want out. I can't be here anymore. I can't do this. Because if my body is broken too, I can't do it if I can't do my music. And so that was another thing. And I just right now drew this parallel. I looked myself in the eyes when I was overdosing. And I said really awful things to myself. And I took all 52 of them, and they had to work on my body. I was standing across the room looking at my body on a stretcher. And
wow.
And a few months before, a couple months before that, this was June 22nd, 1994, Kurt Cobain had killed himself. And I was very strongly connected to the grunge movement and very important music for me at that point. And I sold my car stereo to get a tattoo.
Nice.
Love of music in Chinese. And it's like in a more private area, it's like in my hip area. I wouldn't have seen it otherwise, but they had, in the process of trying to resuscitate me, taking my clothes off and stuff. I was in intensive care, and I saw it. And that's what made me go back into my body. And I looked at myself and I went, oh my God, that poor girl. I have, like, she's so beautiful. What happened? And not beautiful, you know. Like,
so did you know that you were dying? Did you know that you were like...
You know, it was such a quick sort of because when I had overdosed, my stepdad drove me to the hospital, and it was like an hour drive, and he was in shock. My mom told me, she hung up on me on the phone, and she said, go wake up your dad and, you know, fix this yourself. Because that's a whole nother long story. And then she came in and told me I was selfish, and the next time I did it to make sure I succeeded.
What?
And,
oh my God.
And I'm sharing this too because a lot of my clients are a member of the group. And I work with a lot of people who have lost loved ones to suicide. And that is why I think I get to do that, you guys, because I've been there, and I get to reassure you that it had nothing to do with you. So, you know, I was looking at myself, though, and during the time that my dad had driven me, I passed out really fast in the car, and he drove me all the way, like an hour drive. And they pumped my stomach, and of course it was too late. And got me up into intensive care, and I could feel all the things that were happening. I could see everything in the room. I was like totally, but I could tell that I wasn't really seeing it. My eyes were shut, you know? So it was a really, really weird experience, and it was also, I was highly drugged. I mean, that was probably part of it. But because phenobarbital, I was told later if I took like 7, I was probably going to be in serious trouble. I took 52 and 10 diet pills. So,
jeez.
Yeah, and so I was standing across the room, and I knew at that point, I mean, that was the whole point. The tattoo told me that was me. And it was interesting because it says love of music, and it, all of a sudden I took this really deep breath, and I was like, ugh, and it was painful. And the doctor was in my face, and he goes, there you are, kiddo, we lost you for a minute. And apparently I went into respiratory arrest like 3 times that night, and they called my parents in, and I mean, I was gone. But I had the opportunity to choose to stay, and even though I had all that hell, I always look back at that. So like this mushroom experience tied me back into that feeling of remembering myself and choosing this.
Wow.
It was, you know, pretty powerful stuff when you think about it. You know, like I said, our wound is the place where the light enters. And that's, like I said, that's Rumi that said that.
That's beautiful.
And, yeah, and it's true. It's true. And that's why we need to provide space for each other to talk about these wounds and to be open and vulnerable and have space to heal and not try to conceal it and hide it and be these perfect little people that are running around with our perfect little houses and jobs and cars and, you know, 1.5 children and, you know, the right kind of dog and the right kind of family get-togethers. And none of that's real. None of that's real.
Right.
Well, and suppressing it, all it does is make you more sick.
Yeah. I mean, it's okay if elements of that are real. It's okay. Like, that was the trick, Megan, for me, and going into, like, the law of attraction thing. Mm-hmm. Because I had convinced myself that all of that was so much an illusion. that I was like, okay, I don't want anything. And I'm not going to be with anybody that has anything, you know, and I don't, it's okay. I'm going to thrift store shop, and I do that still because I care about the environment and because there's way too much waste. But back then it was more like, if I want a nice car, or if I want, you know, to have nice clothing or to present myself in a certain way, it's because I'm trying to buy out or sell out, you know?
Yeah.
Because I learned that was all an illusion. But it's not true either. I mean, there's a balance, and we deserve to be happy. We deserve to enjoy this world and this life. But with responsibility and vulnerability and being able to connect, you know?
That's awesome.
It's all a beautiful thing.
Yeah,
I don't know if any of that
absolutely.
just makes sense. You know what I mean, though?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
That's awesome. Well, Lily, talk to us about where you're at now. What are you doing? I mean, you've overcome so much. I mean, you've shared so much with us. You talked about how, different modalities that you've used to heal, and now you're rocking your own practice. Is that right?
I am. And I've been doing this, like I said, for 20 years, but this year I have been working while doing this stuff part-time as well, and on the side, I've been working, a very responsible job, all that stuff, and my body started saying, no, we're not doing this anymore.
Yep.
And I was like, oh my God.
It's time for your purpose, whether you like it or not, whether you think you're ready or not.
Yep, we're kicking you off the diamond board, baby.
Yeah.
That happened. I quit that job. I have a very supportive partner who said, you do what you need to do. What do you need to do, Lily? What do you need to do to create your practice? And I said, all right, I need this, 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 and this. He goes, okay, we're doing it. And he did it with me. And he said, quit your job. He said, don't pressure yourself to work that job. He goes, it's killing you, and it's not you. And so I got out. And then I tried another one of those jobs for a minute because I got back into the fear. And that was even worse. And the universe was like, hey, idiot, are you listening to me? And I'm like, all right. And my partner, Luis, is like, yeah, okay, so I don't want you there. I don't want you doing this for you. He goes, if you want to stay there, you can, of course, But from my perspective, it's your time.
That's awesome.
And so I said, okay.
Well.
And I stepped back and I was like, all right, here we go. And I set up my Facebook.
I love him.
I do too. I set up my Facebook page in September for my practice, and I went to favorite metaphysical shops that I've gone to for years, and I said and I've known people that own, like one in particular, the person who owns the place, and I said, I'm ready. She's like, I've been waiting for you to be ready. And I'm like, okay. And so then I started to do sessions there. And then I was like, no, it's got to be even more. And there's this wonderful shop in Portland called New Renaissance. And everybody's like, well, they have a waiting list and there's like 65 people on it. And it takes a long time for you to work into the system. I said, I'm supposed to be there. Reach out to them on Facebook. And they're like, okay, if you really feel strongly about this, then write this person. I wrote that person. And I went and did a session for him, and there's a bunch of beautiful synchronicities with all of that experience as well. Amazing experience there that I'm not going to share because it's private, but he's like, yeah, okay.
That is awesome.
That's and one of the most beautiful things for me too is listening to my intuition and posting things that I feel inspired to post. And a lot of times, Wayne Dyer talks about that 3 o'clock in the morning thing. And Rumi did too, about having that inspiration and the veil being thin, and that's when it comes in. Like, okay, I'll wake up and I'm like, this is what I'm supposed to do. Boom, it just comes out, and I post it to different groups. And what I love seeing even more so than being in a local shop is working with people on the phone who I've never met and seeing how the universe just literally moves us out of our own ways so that we can become, like I said before, an instrument and a vessel.
That's awesome.
And yeah, it's so beautiful. Like, I am so humbled by the whole process. So in order to be able to do all of that, because it's intense. I mean, I'm not working with people that are going, should I date this guy? I mean, sometimes I get that, but more, I'm working with people in deep grief and deep trauma and helping them work through it in an energetic way, release it, cut cords. Like I said, I've worked with a tremendous amount of people. I'd say 98% of my clientele have had a suicide in their family that's very close to them, or the death of a child.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that has been a deeply humbling and very sacred space for me to be able to be in with people, because I don't take it lightly. And I love these people for their willingness to heal. And have developed some very beautiful friendships because of it. And so that kind of work. And so in order to do that kind of work, at first I was like, I'm going balls out. Like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, client. And because when you open that door, so many of us need this, you know? And it was just a lot of people. And I'm learning how to, and Luis is very good at this. He keeps me grounded. He's like, okay, I think you need to structure it a little more, because I'd be like sitting, I just did this recently, you know, I'll talk to people 1 o'clock in the morning. I sit and I'm able to hold space if they're suicidal and things like that. And I have been trained for women's shelters, and also was working on being trained to be on a suicide hotline as a support person. So,
oh, nice.
Yeah, so there's that kind of stuff too. And I always say, you know, you've got to go and possibly have some therapy, and I'm not, you know,
Oh, yeah.
I have someone in crisis.
Yeah, no,
I'm a big resource person, so I'll be like, this is a good resource, hey, you know.
That's good. That's good that yeah.
And the work that you're doing is just so amazing. So I wanted, before we wrap up today, though, I wanted to give you the chance for sure to know, how do people reach out to you? If someone wants to book a session with you, then how is the best way for them to do that?
Okay, so thank you for that, number one. Number two, so I'm obviously in group with a lot of you, just amazing people who I'm learning from, and just loving every single day. There's so much good there. And David and Megan, thank you so much for providing that space. So I post a lot.
We love it.
You guys.
Yes, we love your posts.
You guys are so gracious with me. So you can go on my Facebook, and it's Lily Huffman, Intuitive Guide and Reiki Master. And feel free to message me. I offer sessions. I am someone who I believe very strongly in an energetic exchange. And so, you know, I have prices set that I don't turn people away. So please don't, unless it's somebody that I know is just like not wanting to pay for something. I can feel the difference. Yeah. And I will work with you if you need support. I just want people to hear that there is, you know, a sliding scale, and that I'm open.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And you can work with anyone. It doesn't matter the distance or anything, correct?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I have recently, in the last week, I've had like people write me all the time, and I'll give them kind of mini sessions. And I've done a lot of work with people overseas just via Messenger. I've never even seen these people.
Nice.
I've worked with people on the phone from Australia, South Africa, England, Ireland, Mexico, Germany, all kinds of different places, and it's India, and it just keeps opening, and I'm so grateful for that.
That's awesome.
There really is no separation. We're all one.
Yeah.
And
absolutely. And she definitely has our recommendation. We did a call with her.
Yeah, she was amazing. Now, Lily, are you just right now at the moment? Are you just are you doing readings only, or do you practice Reiki as well, or is that something that you just are doing like on yourself?
No, I always incorporate Reiki into a session. I'm always like, when I'm working with someone, sending them energy since they've come to me. There's that openness about it, you know.
Okay.
I always ask permission. I always ask permission. And since they've come to me, I feel like I can do that. I don't do Reiki sessions, generally speaking. I'll do it like with my partner or my children or my dog.
Love it.
Or friends that, and myself a lot. But, you know, I think my path is more doing, one of my clients called it energetic therapy. And I'm not a therapist. I'm not trained as a therapist, but I've had 20 years. I've had another person say, you've got a doctorate degree in this anyway.
Yeah.
You know, spiritually anyway. You but I can't call myself a therapist or a counselor. I certainly believe in those people as well, the professions. And
but you're very gifted, though. You're very gifted,
for sure.
and we are so thankful to have you.
Yes, and I end every episode with one question for you.
Okay.
If you could leave the world with one message, what would that be?
Okay. And I say this to clients a lot too. You are so important. You are so precious. You are irreplaceable. You have gifts to bring this planet that only you have. From your experiences, your heart, your divine origin, and you are never too old to heal. You are never too lost to heal. You are never too addicted to heal, and you are never too sick to heal.
Beautiful.
And the universe will support you. Absolutely. And you are surrounded by angels and guides.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. I feel like this is definitely not going to be our last podcast. There's so many things we could have hit on. But thank you so much for coming on. You are such a blessing to so many, and you just created such an incredible space for so many people to hear and know there's hope.
Such an inspiration.
Yes, thank you. We appreciate you. And
thank you guys.
have a good rest of your weekend, Lily. Thanks for everything.
Yeah, thank you.
Happy healing.
Happy healing.
Yeah, you guys too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
The podcast you just heard was made using Anchor. Ever thought about making your own podcast? Anchor makes it really easy for anyone to get started. It's a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing podcasts. Best of all, it's 100% free. Sign up now at anchor.fm/new. That's anchor.fm/new to get started.